Okay,
Daniel,
perfect.
just let me know when you would like me to start.
Okay, just we're waiting maybe another 3 minutes, and then we'll begin for people, giving time for people to join in. The idea is that you present between maybe 30, 40 minutes, and then we'll open the floor to questions for anyone who has any. And and that's the dynamic. Afterwards, the recording would be posted in our YouTube channel and in our website, and I'll share the link with everyone. And afterwards, we'll do some blog posts, or if someone is encouraged to do a blog post and can do so, and just tell me, we'll post it in our website. And so that's like the dynamic. And further on, we can see how we can always use the material that we get from these interactions to create content in our for our website and social media. We just posted. I generate the like a kind of a podcast episodes with the seasons webinars. I do it with AI, obviously. So hopefully we'll have the budget someday to do it live with people. But for now, we're doing it with AI, and has a pretty decent result. So I urge you to all and Natalia to take a look at it and listen to those episodes at our website because they talk about like the wrap up of every semester's lineup. Um, so yeah, let's wait another 2 minutes so to start, so we can give people a chance to um all to join. And I'll introduce you, and then can you can begin the presentation. Okay, so it's 11:05 Central and 12:05 Eastern. So we're gonna begin uh, our our webinar right now. So everything is up and running. Uh, so I want to introduce Natalia Bakaeva. She's an experienced architect with um, work in architecture, urbanism, and interiors. She's been working and has experience for 10 plus years in residential construction, commercial projects, and she has worked through and across different scales, from intimate dwellings to large urban interventions. She's originally from Russia, and she has traveled all over the world to shape her experiences. She has been in Japan, Spain, London, and well, in Toronto, where Natalia is based right now. And well, her practice brings nuanced, culturally aware, and research-driven perspective to her work. Her designs move beyond function, and they evoke emotion, provoke thought, and foster meaningful connections to space. She is also the founder of Archi, an AI-driven architectural knowledge platform that would be presented today, and she will talk about this mostly, I think. And so I leave you with Natalia and what she has to tell us.
Thank you, Daniel. This is a lovely introduction. Um, Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you for joining and taking the time in your day to listen to this webinar. I'm sure you all have a very busy schedule, so it's very valuable to see you here. So my name is Natalia, and today, as Daniel mentioned, we're going to be mostly focusing about and talking about technology, less about architecture, even though I will touch on architecture just because, we are, as architects and designers, that's what we love to talk about. You can't stop us. And just to give you some context of where I'm coming from or what kind of projects I used to work in the past. But hopefully today, um, I can cover mostly how we can, as architects and designers, embrace AI and not to be scared of it. And I want all of us to be able to take advantage of this new technology. And I want to make sure that we, as professionals, are as cutting edge in this AI game as other professions out there. And that's my personal goal, to make sure that we can be ahead of other industries as architects and designers. So I'm going to start with a quick introduction, which is the high level about Archi. So Archi is the cloud software, so everything we do is online on the web, right? We kind of trying to get away from on-prem solutions. And we're based in Toronto, Canada, like Daniel mentioned, even though some of the team members, they're in other cities in Canada and abroad. So we are now working with 20 architectural and engineering firms in 3 countries, mostly Canada and the US. But we also have some companies we work with that are located in the Middle East. So the whole premise of this solution is AI that serves architects, and we will talk about it in detail more. And very important to mention that unlike other softwares that we have and we use every day, we build it together with professionals. And this work is extremely interconnected to the day-to-day practice and business of architecture and design. And we are focused on increasing day-to-day productivity. A lot of pieces of software out there are about increasing number of work produced in the shortened amount of hours or reducing costs. Our angle and my goal is quality. How can we be productive in terms of quality, and we can improve quality of our work as we uh, basically scale or grow our firm. As Daniel mentioned, we're going to have 40 minutes of presentation. Then I think we have about 10 minutes for questions after that. And from today's session, even though Daniel mentioned that I'm going to be talking mostly about Archi, but I actually want you to make sure that you will walk away from this 1 hour feeling like you got some useful information that you can then maybe implement even in your office. So we're going to talk about the current landscape of AI augmented tools and state of industry today. We're going to cover some case studies based on everything we've been doing for the past 3 years and AI research that I've been personally conducting. And hopefully I can send you home with a sort of a plan of action, things for you to stay current, stay relevant, and make sure that you are never left out of context. But I will start with a personal story. And as I was growing up, I was never interested in playing with dolls or toys. I was always interested in only playing with building blocks. Funny enough, not to toot my own horn, I was recently in Frank Lloyd Wright house near Chicago, you might know. And I found out that that was his story as well. And even the type of blocks that he played with is very similar to what I was playing with as a child. So it's just something I found very curious. As a teenager, I was obsessed with playing Sims. to the point where I would even crack the software to get unlimited cash so I can design more houses. I was never interested in, playing with, if you're familiar with Sims, playing with, characters or families. Every time I would finish a house, I would just move to the next house, and that was my way of playing this game. And actually, only years after I realized that, there are some other parts to this game which I never knew about. And by the age of 16, I had already started the architecture school. And my dream was very simple. I wanted to create fantastic designs that inspire people. And that led me to ended up in Canada and becoming part of the Ontario Association of Architects. And I've been practicing here for the past 12 years. I worked and studied in 5 countries, like Daniel mentioned. And basically, it helped me to see some of the common patterns and differences as well in the architecture practice. And what we are building today is directly impacted by my observations in the industry in the past, you will be surprised, 20 years. Don't let all the Zoom filters trick you. Um, and basically, to give you a little bit of a context, as an architect, I started using BIM very early when I was only 18 years old. And I've been always extremely keen on intersection of technology and design. That was my profession, kind of passion. And this is some of the projects, just to give you my design background. What I've done was when I was still employed, and some of the past projects, just to set you up with some context what was happening with me before Archie. This is just the reality of the work we do in Toronto. You can see some purpose-built rentals, some towers, and then some of the smaller, medium-sized projects I've done. During pandemic, I also started my own architectural studio. So a majority of what Daniel was talking about is related to my own projects. Some of the urban interventions, like recent typology here in Toronto, is a laneway house that we are now allowed to build. So I've done some of those, and then some other heritage transformations. I also used to do a lot of art installations. So those were overhead sculptures. We exhibited them in public spaces. I assembled all of them manually. For example, this one in the corner here, you can see has about 11,000 individual pieces that I glued every day coming after working at the office and working until 2 a.m. to put this piece together. And this is just to give you some context where I'm coming from. And also, I was then exposed to the prop tech industry as well, where I had a chance to actually see how startups function and build a team of architects in this tech context. So why is this important for us to talk about all of this today, and why Daniel brought all of you here? We see a lot of interest in this topic, and people are coming to us with this question: why should we worry about this now? Where do we start? And the reason is that AI and machine learning in the recent years have become more accessible, and we see a wider adoption across many industries, including our industry. We see that various sectors are experiencing exponential growth in AI applications. And I will give you some stats on that today. At the same time, we see a boom in AI adoption in our profession. And even though architects are known to be a bit slow in the adoption of the new tools, AI adoption is exploding. We see that 2/3 of firms will adopt AI by next year under firm-wide mandate. So it's not anymore playing kind of in more of a individual level tools, but rather rolling it out on a firm level. We know that the cost of inaction is massive, and it's estimated that about 3 million lost every year per firm. And this is we're talking about larger firms. And this is basically the gap that AI is trying to close. And prospects also tell us that the staff is at 150% capacity, and they're facing a labor and delivery crisis, which means that firms are overutilized and they're seeking AI tools to do more with less. So it's either being more productive or increasing quality, like I mentioned. At the same time, if we look at the adoption curve, we're still very, very early. A lot of these tools have not been thoroughly tested or they're not compatible with integrations at the firm or enterprise level. There is definitely a room to grow. And at the same time, for those who embrace AI now and have this early adopter mentality, this presents a huge opportunity. And this opportunity could be either finding market differentiation, maybe it is gaining competitive advantage, and for some firms is to position themselves as outstanding practice in this industry. Because you have to remember that we have about 7,000 firms in Canada and about 81,000 firms in the US. And the majority of them are now competing based on price and based on lowering the fees. And at Archie, we believe that this is not a sustainable way to get competitive advantage. Um, we want to be able to monetize our existing knowledge, and we want to be able to come in and say that we are AI-enabled practice, and this is something that we can use as competitive advantage. Okay, let's talk about challenges now. There are some main obstacles that we see today in the adoption of the new tech and the barriers that I personally try to break every day. I think the first one is the cultural shift. It's not so much only with AI, but new technology in general. And we know that our industry is about 25 years behind on average. There are some pockets that's a bit more outdated or less outdated. We know that our profession comes with a grand amount of liability. That is why people are used to doing things certain way, and they are not always willing to change that. There is also a lot of data privacy and training concerns with AI. We hear this question a lot about how the data is being used, whether it's used for training or not. And also, this third statement is kind of related to cultural shift, but it's a part of a bigger conversation. So today, AI is positioned as a replacement for designer or an architect. So designer community feels sometimes threatened by it. But I, on the contrary, always see it as an enhancement of the skill rather than a replacement. And actually, to be fair, never a replacement. And the case studies that I will show you today will highlight that again. Another challenge that we see is that AI is leveraged for more creative tasks into day-to-day practice. When you mention AI, architects think of rendering tools, and some of them may be Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, more specific ones. And this is very curious to me because machines handle tedious tasks better than humans. For example, our brains are not designed to hold project numbers, exact addresses, specification, and construction notes. So then I ask myself, why do we as architects give AI most creative tasks at the beginning of design process, things that we personally like to do so much, and those the creative tasks that inspired us and brought us to this profession? We need to remind ourselves that there are many non-creative tasks in our profession. And we're not going to be talking today about, whether you like those tasks or don't like those tasks. This is not the point of this conversation. The point of this discussion is for me to bring to your attention what are the opportunities and three main categories that today we identify are up for disruption in the next 5 to 10 years. So the first one is detailing and compliance. The second one is the project communication, project management. And the third one is information resource management. To give you some of the precise examples of the tasks in the first category are construction documentation, code validation, and interoperability issues between pieces of software in the office. Under project management, we have minutes and reports, many AI tools already helping us with that. We know that going through emails and retrieving crucial information about the project is extremely tedious. Providing timely feedback is extremely difficult sometimes because of just the timing constraints. And we also see that principals and decision makers are not the ones who are doing the work, let's say in Revit or in BIM. They don't have the means to communicate this feedback unless they use markups. And this knowledge is being transferred via email or verbally, and inevitably it will fall between the cracks. So there is no really a place to deposit their knowledge and centralize it, which makes it inaccessible to everyone in the company, especially for the new staff. And it might be very relevant for you guys because you're working with students who are entering the practice after they graduate. And the last category is my personal favorite. Something that I feel like architects and designers are not very good at, this I'm not very good at this, is the folder organization and general information accessibility at the firm's level. This problem exists because of the sheer volume of information that we have to deal with. And the more software we use day to day, the more data we continue to produce. So then I ask myself, if the list of non-creative tasks goes on and on, why am I as an architect is willing to give up the creative tasks so easily, even if we know that the machine is so good at doing the mundane tasks, going through information file by file, line by line, and why is the first thing that comes to a lot of people's minds then rendering and doing the creative work? At Archi, we believe that AI should be doing your architectural laundry, not taking over your creative tasks. If you need some enhancements, that's absolutely fine. However, many processes can be improved today already using AI without encroaching into architects' creative territory, at least for now. Now let's look at more practical applications, and I will go over some of the software as it stands today. You will see that some of them are fully AI and some of them are just enhanced by AI. Just for the purpose of this presentation, I identified 5 main categories. They do not correlate directly with the tasks that I mentioned earlier, but rather than with the project stages, because I wanted to give you a holistic view of this landscape. You have to also remember that a lot of the tools that are being developed right now, they're under the NDA constraints. So a lot of things that you are seeing, they are not really fully public out yet. So there is a lot of information being held back by those creators because they want to protect their intellectual property. So the first bucket of those tools is feasibility studies. We're also going to talk briefly about image generation because it's everyone's favorite. I just can't ignore it. We are going to talk about beam generation and using AI for beam-like generation. We're going to touch briefly on site review tools, and we're going to talk about data management, and that's where I will share our work that we have been doing with Archi as a use case. So let's start with the feasibility studies. These tools are planning site programmatically, and they based on parameters that are known to us. Think about it as an Excel spreadsheet driven design, or those of you who might work with developers in the past, pro forma driven design. Those parameters could be width of the unit, size of the parking lot, space, the size of the setback, size of site, balcony, corridors, floor sizes. So you put those numbers, and there are some of the tools that can help you achieve that. The second bucket is the image generation using AI. So for you, instead of spending enough hours trying to figure out the render like we used to do in our architecture school, now you control it with the human language, and something that used to take me 3 days to render, now you can do it in seconds, which is absolutely insane. In my own opinion, I think that starting with the image might be a bit of a band-aid approach because the data is not firm specific and it does not know the history of the firm's aesthetics and the context. It's generic data and the machine is trained on the images from internet, something that we're trying to fix with Archi, where our goal is having firm-specific approach where possible. In the same time, again, we can't ignore it. It exists. I'm myself using it. So just to give you an example, some of the tests that I've done personally. So this one is the Photoshop beta. So you might know this one, it comes with your subscription. So you can see the image on the left, it's rendered with Enscape and SketchUp. And the image on the right has been created without re-rendering, just navigating with prompts on Photoshop Beta. So I encourage all of you strongly to take a look at this tool. The second one I tested, but a lot of them now are following the same logic. It's called Prom AI. This is an instance where the rendering was not in the scope of the project. However, I still wanted to create an image for marketing and website purposes. And I would imagine some of you have been through this journey. So I took an initial clay render from Revit using Enscape, and I ran it through Prom AI in a test capacity. So a lot of detailing is not exactly precise or accurate, but then again, you can use Photoshop for quick touch-ups. And this is the same logic, like let's say Nana Banana is going to be using if you have a paid subscription for Gemini. Basically, you give it a clay render, and then navigating the prompts, you can change the scene settings, you can change the materiality. A lot of things can be tweaked inside of Nana Banana. The third one is the beam generation. So in this case, we are looking at a software called HiArc. These are three engineers from Autodesk who exited the company and started their own. And think about it as a lighter version of Revit, which runs on the web, and it only focuses on a single family residential designs. They essentially have a catalog of pre-generated assets, which you can change on the fly. You can divide rooms and assign room values to them. The drawing set is created automatically in several disciplines, electrical, plumbing, architectural, as well as quantity takeoffs. So you can see the rendering is happening on the fly as well. And the drawing set is being produced in the background as we modify the design. So once you're done, you can send it to the plan examiner. It's going to be ready for you to plot. We also look at HiPAR, where if you know Revit or use other BIM tools, you might understand that it's a 3D, a very complex platform. In the same time, HiPAR lets you navigate BIM model using text. So instead of modeling those elements, you type prompt what needs to be modeled, and HiPAR creates it for you. Then we go to site review. And the one we are seeing right now is called Argyle. This tool maps the BIM model with various disciplines onto your site and making sure that the BIM data is followed and accurately positioned on site during the construction. So now we arrive at the data management. And here you see what we've been developing at Archi. The goal is to work with architectural data and use AI to archive your work programmatically in a smart way. Then retrieve this information for the new project that you're working on, and based on the design intent during the drawing creation process. So now we're going to talk about the Archi case study. I wanted to present from the perspective of everything we've been doing for the past 3 years and things we've been learning, and share some of the discoveries with you today. So when I began my career, I quickly realized it was not the creative journey that I had envisioned when I was in architecture school. It was pure grunt work. As an architect at a mid-sized firm, I would need to draw construction details for my new project. And I know that for me to stay on a deadline, I had to refer to the firm's past work. The answers are there, but they would be buried and inaccessible for me. So as a result, I will miss the deadline. My firm would lose margins and lose money and be exposed to liability on site once the project goes to construction. So our holistic thesis is all the necessary knowledge for the project's execution already exists on the firm's server. However, it is extremely buried. At the same time, projects, they run in parallel. They exist in those separate swim lanes, and teams might be answering the same question coming up during the design of the one project and over the same on the side on the different project which the same firm is working on. The office best practice sits in its own silo, And it's not something that architects typically access when they're on the deadline, because today there is no streamlined access to this information. With Archie, we're able to cut through those silos, so all the buried and trapped information is now released. And everyone in the office, no matter which project they worked or have not worked on, now can find the answers to their questions in a streamlined way based on their current designed intent. To explain it more practically, the problem that we are focusing on is the problem of the data access, knowledge transfer, and being able to obtain context when making an important design decision that will influence a course of the project. I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that data in the architectural office is extremely fragmented. We have PDF files, we have Revit models. Revit models also exist in the silos between Revit versions, and the flow information is extremely challenging and broken. We interviewed over 500 architects, and we concluded that the issue of the information access represents quite a large amount of hours when we sum it up. It is an optimistic estimation that 200 hours per person per year are spent on search for design-related questions inside of the same firm. And when we talk about 200 hours, we are not even talking about redrawing the information. This is just trying to find an answer for their question. So during those discoveries and interviews, these are all the problems that we heard from our customers. Architects are struggling because they're redoing the work that was done before. An extremely specific case is the construction details. Architects hate reinventing the wheel. Example, if something has been resolved effectively in their office and it's already went to site and been tested, mocked up and proven, they don't want to be redoing this detail again because they cannot find it. They just want to use the learning and the knowledge in their office that's been already created and then improve the quality or adjust it based on the project. There is no way to easily access the past projects. And honestly, if you're new to the firm, you have almost no chances of finding any of the past project information. Typically, even intermediate architects only work within 5 last years worth of work. And honestly, sometimes even the principals who have been in the firm for 30 years do not have memory of all the projects that they worked on, just because it's not humanly possible to remember all that information. So when we are putting together a new design proposal, there is no way to have predictable outcomes in terms of how long something will take, which means that we don't have the data, what kind of information we already have. And we don't know what we potentially already resolved in the past. So how do we solve this with Archie? This is a kind of quick snapshot of a typical flow that we will offer to our customers. So we mine the data that currently they have in their Revit files. So we essentially plug into Revit project, we find all the information that's eligible to be uploaded, and then we upload it from Revit to the Archie app. Once it's uploaded to the app, then you can converse with your data. So instead of trying to remember the exact word match that was on the label or on the name of that view or that detail, now we're able to use AI for searching, which means that it's a conversational search. You can tell it, show me a foundation detail in residential construction in Texas. And it will not only look at the name of the view, it will look through all the specs. And something that we are the only startup that does that, we also look at the detail visually. So even if it has minimum amount of notes, we are able to look at it just like an architect or engineer would. And then once you found what you're looking for, you can bring it back to Revit and use it on your real project. I'm not trying to encourage a copy paste of details here, and we have all sorts of guardrails in place how to prevent people from just blindly copying and pasting. At the same time, I do believe that we should be trying to always improve the quality. And if there's, let's say, a simple detail of um, for accessibility or some of the details that we're using from project to project, we should be always trying to continuously improve them rather than redraw them from zero every time. So the goal for us is to get you to 50%, and then you will take this detail from 50% to 100 with your own resources. So we are working with 20 firms now, as I already mentioned. Some of them you might know, some of the names might be new to you. And for us, it's very important to be feedback driven. So we onboard those firms, we start working with them, and we essentially develop and build software with them. So how we got to this point with Archie, in the early days, we met with those firms every couple of weeks and we received the feedback. And sometimes the feedback could directly affect the software development. And sometimes it would be some ideas or some items that would be flagged for R&D, and then we will go and do technical feasibility on them and see if that's something that we potentially can build in the future. So it's extremely collaborative process. Our users are extremely involved in everything we do, and this is very different from how the software used to be built 5, 10 years, 20 years ago. So as the result, our customers think it's an exceptional piece of software. They believe it pays for itself and brings a lot of value to firms. This is a case study from the Studio 906 in Tennessee that we've been working with them for close to 2 years now. They say that save 3 hours per detail. The search time is cut by 90%, and they see the 30% reduction in the duration of construction documentation process. Actually, in the beginning of this year, they shared with me that they have a project on the go where 100% of the details were brought from Archie. So every single detail that they placed on the sheet for that project directly came from Archie, not from their server or being redrawn by their staff. We're being invited to a number of conferences, associations, and universities, and being recognized for the importance of the work that we've been doing in this industry. And Daniel, maybe I add your logo after this here as well. Just to talk about the product in a little bit more detail. So I already mentioned conversational search. To reiterate, you're able to dive into the entirety of the information, not only scratch the surface. We are pulling the metadata about the project, the metadata about the detail, and based on multiple dimensions of that piece of information, we will be answering your query once you search. Something that we are very proud of, and this might be getting a bit too technical. So if you have more questions, you can ask them Q&A or send me a message. Basically, if you guys work in Revit, you know that there is a combination of 2D and 3D details that we operate with. And we are the only company that is able to process the 3D elements and 3D details and reuse them. And drafting views, which is something that we work with as well. And not only able to file them, we're then able to track those details in time and see how they're changing and how they're evolving and notify our users if there are any changes that have been introduced that they need to be aware of. And I know that we are heavily focusing on details in this presentation, but we also support floor plans, sections, and other types of views, and you can do all this on those as well. So to sum it up, Archie programmatically assigns applicable tags to the drawings. So during the upload, so all the processing of your data happens in the real time. So there is no downtime for you to start using the data. Each firm's data is stored on the private secure cloud, so there is no data cross-contamination between the firms. You're able to see all the project history inside firms database based on the projects that you decided to contribute and upload to Archie, so we don't really crawl your server or anything like that. And our goal is to create a mind map of architectural information. We don't want to be another content library or storage where just you put the file assets and then you need to tag them, and that's the only way for you to find them. We want to create a place of context, the place where architects can leverage AI and make AI do the architectural laundry for them. And my personal inspiration, and you might have noticed this, I'm very passionate about it. Um, all of this done to get to what we love to do faster. We should see AI as a tool that helps us not to get our creative work done, but to get our tedious work done first to make sure that we design elegant, compliant, sustainable buildings. So you can ask me then, Natalia, how does this affect me and how can I implement it today? Based on all the research we've done, these are the things for you to keep in mind. It is essential to focus on layer by layer implementation. Rather than assuming that we will simply integrate AI when it improves or becomes better or more accurate, adopting this mentality will ensure that you as an architect is prepared for the gradual process of integration. Starting earlier will increase your chances of gaining competitive edge. Continuous learning plays a huge role here. For instance, with Archi Academy that we introduced on our platform, users won't need to log in a separate platform or navigate to a resource library or to access training. It's all done on our platform. Those are 2-minute short videos, and this is streamlined, digestible, and for them to be staying up to date with our software, that's what they use. And we also use product updates and constantly to continue to train and train them and make sure that they're aware of all the new features. So this is extremely important. Investing in new technology is essential. If you only rely on the current tools without innovation, consider that your clients, developers, or even other consultants might adopt newer, lighter software, enabling them to innovate faster and beat you in this game. We anticipate that there are going to be elimination of certain processes with an implementation of, let's say, in this case, Archi. Our customers have noticed that some of the existing workflows can become obsolete once Archi is fully integrated. This streamlining does not just shorten the workflow, it removes workflow blocks entirely. So you need to be aware of that. And you need to be able to continuously evaluate, introduce those metrics, and provide feedback. So as I already mentioned, at Archi, we develop our software collaboratively with architects to ensure that our industry-specific software meets the exact needs. And we will conclude with a plan of action that embraces this new discipline and move away from the traditional isolated approaches. We need to get used to the fact that technology is here to stay. It's not here to replace us, but if we try to turn our back on technology, most likely we are not going to get far. And hopefully those who are here today are very interested in technology. We need to get ready for the mindful retooling. It's about dedicating time and resources, making sure that people who are decision makers in your office are aware of what's happening in the industry. And sometimes we need to be advocates and we need to build this agency for ourselves and to make sure that people actually pay attention, because it's very easy to get distracted and to be always on a deadline. Start discussing AI early in your office, maybe. Many companies approach us eager to collaborate, but they are concerned that their team might not be open to it. Once they see a demo or trial our tool, they're often amazed by capabilities, and sometimes it's just a matter of opening the door and starting this conversation. We have to be comfortable with change. Essentially, you just need to make sure that it doesn't feel like someone is taking the ground from under your feet, but rather it feels like the innovation is welcomed and we're together to be better in our profession, to be better architects and designers, and this will help us to get there. And please reach out, talk to me. I would be happy to discuss these insights further. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me directly. If you want to explore this topic further, so some of the previous podcasts and events that we participated in, and you can just scan the QR code. And now we have some time for questions, and I will share my contact info here, which you can take a note of. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to hearing your questions.
Well, thank you, Natalia, for your presentation. I think that as an educator and also as an entrepreneur and someone who has worked in BIM for the last, I don't know, like 10, 11 years, doing projects, I find that this is a very unexpected AI implementation. And since we've met, I've always thought that we're, as architects and designers, focused on, yeah, the image of the project. And you touch on a very important point, that is, yeah, if we got into design because we love design and we love to make things, why are we so embellished with the creation of that image and with that part of what AI does instead of delegating, I'm going to say, like the boring stuff, right? So, uh, my company actually, it deals with, its business is dealing with the boring stuff. We do like the technical coordination, documentation, detailing, uh, quantitative takeoff, and most of our clients, they already have their design made up. And we work with four design firms mostly, but the instances when we have gotten the opportunity to design buildings and spaces, uh, well, I take on myself, and I've taken on myself, and I spend hours trying to figure out the design. And that is something that I would not like easily uh, like delegate, because that's what I do. Then I'll become just like a, I don't know, an operator of a computer, like a computer pilot instead of an architect or a designer, interior designer. So um, I would like to ask you, how have you seen Archie in your history as as that little girl who played with blocks contribute to your, well, to free you of these rudimentary tasks to become more creative, and how has that part of AI well let you do that?
Great question, Daniel. Thank you for sharing some of your story as well. I think that as a person who both worked as an employee in the firm and also ran my own architectural studio for a few years, and now being outside of the profession and kind of looking from a almost like a bit of a outsider into how we do things, and working with, like a not one firm but many different firms, and seeing how they implement the best practices that are related to either Archi or in general. I think that for me, if I would ever go back to conventional architecture practice, I think that the most important impact is when you start a project as an architect. Right now, we are kind of shooting blank, right? Like we only know that we probably done this kind of typology. Maybe we've done a project of certain size, and then we have a team that is experienced in certain areas. And then we have partners who've been around for a long time. They experience in projects in general. But in the same time, we can't confidently say how much time this will take us to execute. We kind of guessing, right? We're shooting blank. We trying to answer 1,000 questions at the same time with having minimum amount of information. So my personal inspiration would be to know if my project is 20, 30, 50% done at the start of it. How can I plug into Archi requirements from the customer, from the developer, from the client, and confidently say that for this project, I already have potentially 80% of the details complete. And I think for me, the impact of that as an architect, as a, person who's been inspired by architecture for many, many years now, I hope that we are more efficient during the documentation process. The quality of the details are increasing. We are more informed. That allows us to shorten the process of construction documentation. And this allows us to focus more on design. So we kind of like we shift the amount of hours per stage that we reallocate the number of hours per stage because now schematic design development takes 25%, 30%, a very short amount of short number of like that pie, short amount of that pie, and construction documents takes 50%, right? Like it's shifting, it's changing, every project is different, but my inspiration would be to make sure that we get more time for actual design early on. So by the time we are reaching construction documentation, we are not making those sacrifices that we then need to live with, right? It's something that we are able to thought through and maybe decide or research early on. It's a very
Okay,
long
thank you.
answer.
No, no, it's fine. It's completely, and I think it's a point that for Archie to exist. And I don't know if anyone in the audience has a question or reflection or something he wants to share or make like annotate or something in comments, questions.
So I have a sort of a question, sort of, because we're in education, right? And we do things like accreditation reviews. And how would this be able to help us gather the information that we need for accreditation reviews much quicker, much more efficient? We use a management system or learning management system where we house all of our student projects, our student works, and then we have an accreditation where they have a number of standards, maybe 122 expectations, right? To be able to gather that information from a learning management system and then be able to put it together more efficiently than just trying to track it on our own.
Yeah, great question. I think that right now we are mostly focusing on, practice of design, practice of architecture.
Mm-hmm.
Since Daniel and I have been communicating, we first met a few years ago, and we presented to University of Granada and then some other universities as well. So, and I used to teach at the university myself before starting Archi, so I really understand the world that you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as we stand today with the software, there's no really a clear way to this kind of journey that you're describing. At the same
Mm-hmm.
time, in the future,
Mm-hmm.
I truly think that Archi could be the knowledge management platform for depositing some of the, references or any of the materials that students are using. So essentially, then they can adhere to those standards, whether it's accessibility or ergonomics or any sort of standards that they need in their studies. And then they essentially can navigate and search through this database easily, right? So instead of going on internet and looking at the like not validated resources, to be able to pool all this data in one place and let them reference it, give them access. That's the evolution of Arc in that direction that kind of personally that I've been imagining.
Nice. Very good. Hmm.
But I know the problem that you're talking about, kind of always reviewing it as one off. I wish
Mm-hmm.
there would be a standardized way of scoring, right, or grading against certain type of requirements or frameworks, right, that were set.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think that Archie opens uh, a door to several possibilities. And now hearing what Jerome has said about accreditation, like one of the most difficult tasks is that it's a kind of a contradiction because we ask our students to
Hmm.
do a portfolio, right?
Hmm.
And we have portfolio reviews and we have this, and why don't you have your portfolio done and everything? So here, CETA is coming. Where's your portfolio? Oh, we we didn't collect it like throughout time, so we have to pull things together, remind teachers that please submit their best work, and we're not building it gradually, just like Natalia told us. I think that in Natalia's presentation, she says that this is something that has to be layered, and it's not something that just appears one day and says, "Here, this is a magic solution." No, I think it is about culture also of us as designers having this thing that we have a lot of things in our mind, and we don't save or have this structured and disciplined way of storing things. And Archie
Yeah.
comes into and saying, well, let me take care of that for you. So I envision that Archie could be a part like this, generating this school-wide or faculty driven portfolio where you take a photograph and you upload it to Archie about a student project, and it identifies it, tags it, and then when you are doing your certification or your reviews for the governing body, you just bring them down and organize them. And I think that that logic works because that is an information model, just as BIM does an information model, but geometrically and with metadata. Here
Hmm.
we wouldn't build anything geometrically, but we would build something full of metadata because we could, well, we would have to have that culture. And I think that a tool like Archie uh, only makes sense if you're willing to have that workflow incorporated in the culture in your company, whereas it is an architectural practice, an interior design practice, or a school because every technology drives like comes against culture and something fails and there was this I don't remember the name of it, but is that that standards or rules are eaten by for breakfast by culture, like culture, if something doesn't sink into the culture, it just disappears no matter how wonderful it is, no matter how well spirited it is. If it doesn't align with culture or culture does not align with that, that will disappear. And I think that Archie, as it has been built by collaborating with the clients, with the users, has incorporated that cultural issue.
Get that. Nice.
Okay, so we're coming up to the end of the webinar. I don't know if we have like a quick question. I don't know if in the chat something. I forgot to check the chat. No. Um, so I just want to thank Natalia for your time. If anything comes up, I'll email you. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your presentation. And I'll share all the information that comes out of this interaction, so you can share it in your social media or in your website and everything that comes out
I
of this. Yes,
I
Carol.
just want to say that I think it's a fantastic presentation. I think it's really innovative. I think it's something that we need to be thinking about because it is coming. And we need to feel or figure out how to shape our environments to be able to adapt to it in the way that you were speaking about, making it more about this is how we use it in the environment. This is how we're able to um, develop good thing to help us do the things that we do best. And I think that that was an excellent approach to how you're you're shaping this idea that you're doing or this company that you're doing. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback. I'm glad it was helpful.
Hmm.
Thank you, Natalia, for everything, and hope to talk to you soon. Hope to 2 years do not pass. And you're very welcome to join IDEC and be part of the IDEC community, which is also in Canada. We have several schools, several members over in Canada.
Mhm.
So it will be great to, well, meet you personally because we've never met personally. But we're closer now. At least I'm not in South America right now.
Right.
So we're kind of closer. So take care and see
Thank
you
you.
see you soon, I guess.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for
Enjoy your
connecting.
weekend. Cheers.
Take
You too.
care.
Cheers.
Daniel was very good. It was very good, Daniel. I think it talks about, am I muted?